do I think it's going to go on for years? No, I don't. Do I think it's going to go on for months though and get more intense, and then there'll be these kind of odd back and forths? Yes.
Yeah, sadly, I agree. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to go years and years. But I was hoping it would be over by the end of this year, and I'm starting to fear that it might go into the next.
August will let us know. The real we will know sort of in August.
Yeah, the counteroffensive. We will know when the counteroffensive is properly launched by the Ukrainians, and we see what the Russian reaction is. I think it is entirely possible, and I don't want. I am always.
You want to get your hopes up, right?
Yeah, but I think it is entirely possible that when they get all their ducks in a row and they launch a proper counteroffensive, that the Russians will melt away. Morale, we know morale on the other side of the equation is just really low.
Right.
The Russians are miserable. They do not want to be here. They are being treated like crap by their command. It's just I will turn on a light. It's horrible. So I think it's entirely possible. I think it's entirely possible when the Ukrainians really start raining down all sorts of pressure on the Russians that they may fold.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, does that mean trouble for Georgia and Chechnya, and a renewed focus on building up in Belarus and forcibly taking over that country, and then putting continual pressure over the next few years on Latvia, Lithuania, and Ukraine from the north and south of those countries because of that? Because Lukashenko has been, there's been this back and forth with him where he's trying to look like a tough guy, and then at one point look like he could probably even out. And it seems like it's hard to read. It will be, because you can't trust what they're saying or what's being said. But a part of the thing about Lukashenko is it looks like he might think of himself as maybe a potential post-Putin leader.
Successor to Putin.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Stalin was a Georgian.
Right.
It's not unprecedented. And Belarus and Russia are very similar. But Lukashenko, I get the impression in Russia that Lukashenko is not very well respected. He's always been a lapdog for Putin, and he's farcical. The stuff he says, he's almost a caricature of a dictator. And I don't think he's got respect in Russia that would allow him to get. But then there's nobody. Kasyanov, they're not going to let a Chechen in the Kremlin. Forget that.
Right.
Shoigu, Lavrov. I mean, who steps in when Putin inevitably is out of the picture? And I don't think there is anybody, because it's purposely been done that way. Putin did it that way on purpose. Make him absolutely essential.
And this goes to sort of the Trump alignment aspect of why they think the same, why they think favorably of each other. But the Channel 1 show that we're always watching, that has this kind of constant, rotating cast of lunatics and power seekers, that they in their own way might. Yeah, but this might be a version of the Apprentice for the Russians to see who might be somebody, even if it's just a Trump type, where Siloviki, whatever the dude, that it's him, or that it's somebody that's been a regular on the show that's one of the generals, or that he grabs one of the guys that's been like, we need to nuke everybody, make them the prime minister and run as the president, in a Trumpian kind of way, to think maybe we'll do, we spent so much time convincing the Russian people that Trump was kind of a good guy for us. Maybe I could run as a Trump in this country. And that in and of itself creates, an internal thing that they have to deal with. So it looks like that's what the parade is. That's what that show looks like. Who could be the most Putin-esque?
Could be. Well, and Soloviev himself is he's got a dedicated following, but he's not he's also
Hmm.
not widely. He's I mean, he's more Tucker Carlson than he is Trump, I think.
Right.
And hopefully, we don't ever see Tucker Carlson in the White House. But
No, we
yeah,
will not. Yeah, fear not.
no, I don't think we will either.
But that doesn't
He's
mean
too
they won't.
extreme.
He's too
Well,
extreme.
yeah,
Okay.
I think he's too extreme.
Okay.
But democracy doesn't really matter over there. What the people think doesn't really matter. If the powers that be in the Kremlin and in the what's called the Siloviki,
Hmm.
which is the which translated is strong men, the men of
Hmm.
strength. They're the ones they're the power behind the throne, and they're the ones that support Putin. And if the Siloviki want to put a figurehead in the president's office who will shout and jump up and down and do fire and brimstone, if that's what they decide to do, then we're off to the races. But um, the the
Hmm.
the thing is, I mean, Putin is a mob boss slash czar slash king slash,
Yeah.
and he's done that. He's created a system in Russia which makes him integral. And I'm deathly, and we've talked about this in the past. I don't think there is somebody who can step in. I
Right.
really don't. I think when Putin, one day to the next, I fear that Putin may just up and disappear one day.
Right.
The cover story will be that he had a medical something, and or whatever.
Right.
He'll be gone from one day to the next, and then we got a real crisis. Then we
Right.
have a real serious problem in Russia.
Because who runs
Russia
in?
is too
Yeah,
big.
the same problem we had in 91. Like if it does collapse, who runs in and steals the nuclear material? That kind of stuff. Like
Yeah.
who takes that stuff and what do they do with it? That gets. I mean, the suitcase bomb problem comes back like we had in the early 90s. I mean, look how many movies were made about that because that was a legit threat. That comes right back around if if the lunatic who might use them leaves, then the lunatics who would use them see their opportunity. The question is, can they get in and get them? It's not like there's closer to the Afghan
Well,
war.
there's also the other concern is that Russia is not a monolith. It is
Right.
made up of 22 republics.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, this has been a problem for Russia for 200 years, roughly.
Mhm.
Catherine the Great ushered in this massive expansion of the Russian Empire, and ever since then, it's every watcher of Russia and even Russians themselves are always contending with the fact that they grew too big, too quick, and much of their land is not.
Mhm.
You're too isolated. It's too vast. The Russia is too vast of a country,
Right.
and it is separated by these huge stretches of land which are completely inhospitable and cannot be tamed. And so there may come a time if there's a power vacuum in Moscow where these republics might say, I have more in common with my republic to my east and my west, my north and my south. I'm going to
Right.
buddy up with them. We're going to create this new country, and then we're going to have our own little international relations with China or
Well, like
Iran or
Lukashenko. There's this story in Newsweek that it just came out yesterday. Yeah. And his statement was, and I'll try to find the quote. Yeah, this is Lukashenko on Friday gave a stern message to former Soviet Union nations keeping their distance from Russia following its invasion of Ukraine. The countries of the post-Soviet space should be sincerely interested in rapprochement with the Union state if, of course, they want to preserve their sovereignty and independence. Like the idiocy of that statement, you better suck up to Russia if you want to stay sovereign. You better let them control your messaging and your military and your resources if you want independence and sovereignty. It's insane.
Yeah, well,
Like,
that's their mentality. That really is their mentality. Everything is zero sum.
right.
Everything is there's there's a top and there's a bottom.
Yeah, and yeah, you know which one you are, right? Well, and that's
Yeah,
what that's
you
what
do know
Putin
which
said.
one you are.
Yeah, Johnny, did you see that last week? I don't know if you've read any of this stuff that Putin keeps saying, but he's basically saying that there are no non-colonial states. You are either a superpower or you're a colony. That's how the world
Wow.
works. That's how it is. That's how it's going to be. It's how it's always been. And basically, it ends up being a warning to everyone else if you're talking about, because the United States doesn't talk like that, nor do we have any interest in doing that. Ask Puerto Rico. It's taken us forever to make them a state. Like we're not interested, even in Iraq and Afghanistan, even in doing the most
Yeah.
egregious stuff that the U.S. has done. We're not staying. We don't. We want you to up and run like a democracy, and then we'll talk to you because your people speak. And once your people speak, we have faith in the idea that once your people speak, even if we don't agree with them in mass, the general idea will at least agree on the rules. And that's what the liberal world order concept is about. But what Russia is saying is that no, that doesn't exist. It never existed, and it shouldn't be allowed to exist. And the worst thing is that these smaller countries that aren't Russia, China, or the United States, including, by the way, the UK, Canada, any of the EU nations, because the EU doesn't count as a superpower in the way he was talking, they're all satellite states of somebody. Just get used to the idea. The Germany and France are American satellite colonies. They don't exist. They don't have any rights. Yeah, and they won't.
His opinion of NATO and the EU is that they are only puppet states of which is why they concentrate on America, because ultimately they think America, as the leader of the free world, quote unquote, is pulling the strings in France and in Rome and in Warsaw and
if only
everybody is is that they really do not understand that the world has moved on from that kind of the world doesn't operate like that anymore. It's they really everything is zero sum. The Russians have missed. You got to understand how, and everybody who's listening to me, Russia has missed out on some of the most significant steps forward in global development, in nationhood, in identity, and social programs, and kind of who we are and how we see ourselves. They missed the Renaissance. They missed the Age of Reason. They missed all sorts of stuff, mainly because they were occupied at the time. By
That'll do it.
But they missed out on all of these. So they still think the world operates in basically a Napoleonic 20th century mentality of I can take land and I own it, and this is someone wins, someone loses. That's all there is.
Ironically, I would argue that it never really did. That one of the conversations about moving towards a democratic idea is that somehow that, one of the reasons why democracy actually started to flourish was because that this functioning, wars of attrition between two kingdoms didn't work either. They were always to the negative benefit. They always entailed deals made and treaties signed after, the fights that broke out didn't work. It wasn't a functional system, or it would have stuck around. And those who romanticize it, like the people here in the States who romanticize the Wild West when we're talking about like gun laws in the country, it's the same idiocy. They don't have any attachment to the awful reality of that situation. The irony is that these guys, that Putin in particular, wants an autocratic dictatorial system that he can participate in, but he wants to be in the West's sandbox economically and legally. In terms of intellectual rights and material goods. Like, I want all your rules to protect me, but not to pertain to me.
Yeah. Why do you think they spin out of control when they don't feel that they're being, and I'm doing air quotes here, respected? They're not being respected. Well, you know what? If you would step up and actually conduct yourself as a modern 21st century or even 20th century country, then maybe we would respect you a little bit more. But what you want all the benefits. You don't want to do the hard work. That's the problem. That's the problem. And it is not just in the power structure. It's funny. A Ukrainian taxi driver pointed out to me a few weeks ago. I was in Kiev. It was before I went to Odessa. He said to me, "Have you ever noticed that every single Russian fairy tale usually starts with somebody being granted wishes, either a genie or a golden fish, where you put your finger in the golden fish's mouth and he grants you a wish." There's
I'm so
all
glad
these
he said
fairy
that.
tales.
Yeah, so I'm so glad he said mouth, and I'm still upset. I'm so glad he said finger.
Have you heard the fairy tale, the golden fish? Well, anyhow, so this Ukrainian taxi driver was saying to me, so many of their fairy tales start with this concept of being granted a wish, because
Yes.
in their mind, and consider the source. This is a Ukrainian taxi driver who has said, because they don't want to do the hard work. They don't want
Yep.
to do the hard work. They want
Right.
they want to be granted a wish, and then everything is better.
And that's
Normally
yeah.
it turns on, it bites them in the backside. But
No wonder they appeal to a certain type of mentality in the United States.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the same thing. All right, I'm gonna let both of you guys go because you have lives, and so do our chat folks. And I appreciate you guys. I will be having a Monday morning live stream, folks, for 4th of July, but not an afternoon one because it's a holiday. So enjoy that, and I will see you, everybody else, on Monday morning. Thank you, Johnny Million, for hanging in there.
I'll see you on Wednesday.
Yep,
Trying
absolutely.
to get to 1,000
Stay safe
subscribers.
out there,
Go to my
Philip.
blog, spread that around.
Yep, we're trying to get 1,000 on his to subscribe to his YouTube channel. So everybody hop over there and do that if you can.
I think I'm subscribed, but I'll double check.
And I know that you can. We trust it. And everybody else, I adore you. Thanks so much. See you guys later. Peace and be wild.